For our next guided section, we'll be continuing the conversation on how to fill data gaps. Here, we will get into an example of how to estimate calculations. In this example, we know that about 1,600 megawatt hours covers 60% of this company's facilities. Using this information, we will scale up to estimate the company's total consumption, including the missing 40% of facilities, resulting in an estimate of about 2,800 megawatt hours consumed across the entire company. In the next slides, we will investigate where this missing consumption is coming from. Looking at the company's facility list, we can see here that Site 3, located in London, is missing its electricity use, but that we do have the data for all of the other facilities. Next, we can think about how to fill this gap. So now that we have determined where the missing data is, we can now do some gap filling. Our goal here is to estimate the electricity emissions for this site using the primary data we have from our other sites. The first step to doing so will be to estimate the electricity usage at this site. As we saw on the last slide, from the sites with their primary data, we have each site's kilowatt hour usage and their square footage as well. To gap fill our missing site, we will total these values up and divide the electricity usage by the square footage to get an estimated electricity usage per square foot, a value we call the energy intensity unit. Moving now to the bottom row of calculations here, we can see that we then take the energy intensity unit and multiply it by the square footage of that London site, resulting in an estimated electricity usage of about 48,888 kilowatt hours for the site. Now that we have that estimation taken care of, we can move on to the emissions calculations. Here, you can see that we have added the gap-filled electricity usage for Site 3 to our table, and we are ready for the next step to calculate our emissions. With all of the activity data for the example company complete, we can now add in our emission factors. As we discussed before, emission factors are geographically based, so we have to look at the locations of where these sites are located in order to assign them the appropriate emission factors, which you can see we have done here on this slide. Now that we have the activity data and the emission factors ready to go, we can move on to the final calculation step. So for our last step, we will complete our calculation by taking our activity data and multiplying it by our emission factor. Once we do that, we are left with our emissions in metric tons of CO2e. Next, for your last section of the lesson, you will be going over how to assess uncertainty and sensitivity.